students, how are you all? Hope our previous class about nutrition and plants has been useful to you. Now let's begin with the next topic, nutrition in animals. Nutrition in animals involves learning about how nutrition takes place in smaller animals as well as higher animals. So we'll be learning two examples for this concept. One dealing with how nutrition takes place in microorganisms like amoeba and the other one dealing with human beings. Before we step into detailed explanation of these two, we will have to learn the 5 basic steps, which is how the nutrition exactly takes place in animals. Okay, so these are the 5 steps which we will be discussing first, starting with ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. Now ingestion, the term itself tells you that it is how an organism takes the food inside its body. See, first if we have to get nutrition, we know we have to put the food inside. Now how an organism takes the food inside its body, what happens immediately once the food enters the body. All this is what we discuss under the topic, or all this is covered by the step ingestion. Now the second step, digestion, is where the food substances which we have taken inside the body is how it's getting broken down and getting digested to release the nutrition, is how the step digestion tells us. And third step, absorption, is once the nutrition is obtained from the digested food substances, it has to get into the blood, because blood is the only transport medium in any living organism, whether it's white blood animals or red blood animals. Blood is the only transport medium. So the nutrition which is digested and produced from the food substances has to be absorbed into the bloodstream if it has to reach the whole organism. And the fourth one is assimilation. Once the nutrition is reaching all the cells, how the cell is utilizing it is what we consider as assimilation. And the last, egestion, is same as once the nutrition step is done, whatever unwanted food particles are there, which is no more required for the living organism, that is sent out. So these 5 steps is mandatorily seen in any animal nutrition concepts. Let's begin with nutrition in amoeba. Now nutrition in amoeba, without giving you the structure of amoeba and without telling you what is the whole process, I have put down some 3 important terms you should know. Clear? So pseudopodia, it is one of the labeling we do in the structure of amoeba, because this pseudopodia, the word pseudopodia can be broken into 2. Podia means feet. Pseudo means false. So false feet. Like you know already, amoeba is a one-cell body. It doesn't have different structures in it to perform different functions. With what it has, it manages everything around it. Likewise, there is something called pseudopodia, which literally means false feet, helps it in moving around. Now this organ temporarily acts as an organ which helps to grab the food when the amoeba is about to perform nutrition. That is why I have mentioned the term locomotory organ, that helps in taking the food. It also helps in taking the food, but mainly it is a locomotory organ. The second one is phagocytosis. And this is a little complicated term for you, but it's in very simple terms, it is any cell when it engulfs something using its enzymes, when it breaks the engulfed particle and completely kills it, we call that process as phagocytosis. That is, in the structure of amoeba, there is a part called food vacuole which is going to engulf the food, release the digestive enzymes and break the food and get the nutrition. So that process is what we call it as phagocytosis. Now pseudopodia grabs the food towards the cell membrane. Clear? And the food vacuole will engulf the cell membrane, engulf the food particle, digests it and takes the nutrition. Now the last one is intracellular digestion. If you remember, when we were discussing about the 5 steps in the nutrition in animals, under the topic digestion, I mentioned intra and extracellular. isn't it? Now that in that one we are going to see in the amoeba, that is intracellular digestion. Now amoeba is a one cell body. Inside that one cell, the food particle is entering, it is getting digested, it's getting broken down, and then the nutrition is released. So inside a cell, since the digestion is happening, we call it as intracellular digestion. I think you are clear with this. Pseudopodia, phagocytosis, and intracellular digestion are the three important terms you have to remember whenever you are going to explain or write about nutrition in amoeba. So here, this is the structure of amoeba. See, in some of the exams, you might be asked under 3 marks, like draw a simple structure of amoeba and label the parts. Just because we don't study structure of amoeba in detail, that doesn't mean we shouldn't be knowing it. So this is the structure of amoeba. As you see, it has a very deformed shape. There is no particular shape for it. In the center is what we have nucleus, and this membrane is called cell membrane. Inside the cell membrane, the fluid part is called cytoplasm. It's enough if you mark this one thing as cytoplasm, not required to mark separately as ecto and endoplasm. Just for you to know, it's been given here. And these elongated structures are called pseudopods. Now everything, singular is pseudopodia, the plural is pseudopods. Now everything is a pseudopodia which helps it in moving. So when amoeba is moving around, if it comes across a food particle here, these two pseudopods will elongate and grab the food. Clear? In the same way, we have a contractile vacuole and these food vacuoles. Inside this food vacuole only, the food particle will be engulfed and the enzymes will be released to digest it. Clear? Let's move on to nutrition in amoeba. So here, 6 steps have been mentioned. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Please follow the arrow marks. Don't get misguided by the location of the pictures. Clear? So this is the first step. This is the first step showing you an amoeba coming across a food particle. Clear? The second step, the pseudopods which we are seeing here is elongating to grab or bring that food particle closer to the cell membrane. That is what I have mentioned here, shows engulfing of food by pseudopodia. That is the step 2, we can see the two pseudopodias elongating together to bring in the food particle closer to the cell membrane so that the food vacuole, this food vacuole will enlarge in size and grab this food particle inside it. Now this is an enlarged food vacuole with the food particle in it. Is that clear? Now in the fourth step, the food vacuole has released some enzymes which has digested the food particle, and if you see around this, a different shady region is given. That shady region is the nutrients getting diffused from the food vacuole into the cell. Now this is the body of amoeba according to the amoeba. So from this food vacuole, after the digestion, the nutrients are getting diffused into the cell cytoplasm so that it utilizes it. Clear? That's what I have mentioned. Shows phagocytosis for the third step. The food vacuole has enlarged and taken the food particle inside it. That is called phagocytosis. Vacuole is engulfing and then digesting the food particle. And in the step 4, that is under absorption, it shows the nutrition diffusing into the cytoplasm. See in the picture, in the step 4, here the nutrients are coming out of the food vacuole, that is it is diffusing into the cytoplasm. The whole cell body of the amoeba is absorbing the nutrients from the food vacuole. And fifth step, it is utilizing it for various biological activities inside it. That is called assimilation. And still there is some particle inside the food vacuole. What it is? It is the unwanted food particle, which the vacuole will bring it closer to the cell membrane and release it out. Okay, you might have a question how a vacuole will open and close. See, the vacuole here is having a food particle. When it comes closer to the cell membrane in this step, it releases some enzymes which will break the cell membrane and pushes out the waste material. And then again it automatically closes. Clear? Ingestion. The pseudopodia is helping the animal to grab the food closer so that the food vacuole nearer to the pseudopodia engulfs the food particle. In the step 2, now the food particle is inside the food vacuole getting digested by the digestive enzymes present inside the food vacuole. Third step is showing us how the cell body is absorbing the nutrients from the food vacuole, and the fourth step, assimilation, how the whole amoeba is utilizing it. The last step, how the waste from the unwanted food of the unwanted food particle is released. If you draw the step diagram, please can you go back to the previous slide? When you draw this diagram, it is enough if you just mention the steps. See, here, instead of mentioning digestion, you can mention intracellular digestion. And also, instead of writing nutrition in amoeba as the simple heading, you can mention holozoic mode of nutrition in amoeba. Can you please revise your concepts learnt before? Holozoic means a living organism has to take inside some solid food particle, digest it and then get the nutrition. That's how even amoeba is doing. So, while writing your heading itself, instead of writing nutrition in amoeba, if you mention holozoic nutrition in amoeba, that adds mark to your answer. The same way here, instead of writing digestion, if you mention intracellular digestion, you are making your answer more specific. Is that clear? And the other steps are the same. Thank you. Next, we'll go for the topic nutrition in human beings. Even for the nutrition in human beings, the same 5 steps implies ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. But before we learn how the nutrition takes place in the human beings, we must have a small look on what nutrients we humans require. We don't take the nutrients directly from the outside environment. We take other food substances which when we digest gets us the nutrients. So, the human diet mainly includes 2 major nutrients. One is macronutrients, the other one is micronutrients. When you see the terms macro and micro, you will be having a general idea. Macro means large, micro means small. Same here. Any nutrient that human body requires in large amount is what we call it as macronutrients. Carbohydrates, fats and proteins are the 3 nutrients which we require in large amounts. But the micronutrients, it doesn't mean that since they are micronutrients, we have to take it only in less amounts. That's wrong. These are micronutrients. Even if we take it, even if we require only in small amounts, they are very essential to our body. If an individual is not at all taking vitamins, doesn't mean they can survive with the macronutrients. They have some disadvantages of not consuming the vitamins. So the reason why you have been taught macro and micro is for us to understand how to consume our food and how to be careful when we are consuming something. Clear? So minerals, vitamins, water and roughage. You might ask, water is also a requirement? Yes, water is also a nutrient which helps us to assimilate all the nutrients in our blood. And roughage is the fibrous food like your corn, maize and fruits which are having lots of fiber, all those are roughage. Now how the food we are eating is going to digest each of these nutrients specifically and then get us the complete energy source is what we learn under nutrition in human beings. Now, when I was introducing the concept in our first class, I told higher organisms like human beings have specialized cells, organs and tissues to perform each and every function. So for nutrition, I said there are separate set of cells, tissues and organs. In the same way, I am telling you, to perform nutrition, we have a whole system, a complete whole system called human digestive system. When we say system, it is working together, or it is coordination of different organs. Like that, the organs which are associated or included in the digestive system have been segregated into two. One is the alimentary canal and the digestive glands. Earlier, some 5-10 years back and all, there was no segregation like this. It's just an updation in your textbooks. So the digestive system has been split into two: alimentary canal or the gut and digestive glands. So these are set of organs that come in direct contact with the food substances, digest them and release the nutrients. Okay, the organs which are involved in alimentary canal are some specific organs which directly come in contact of the food. And these digestive glands are another set of organs which do not come in contact with the food, but they indirectly help the organs in the alimentary canal to digest the food. So this has direct involvement in digestion, this has indirect involvement in digestion. Clear? Let's see each what they have. Now, alimentary canal is the longest canal in the digestive system, or longest, how to say, it's the longest in the digestive system. It has the longest in the digestive system, and it is 6 meters in length. It is 6 meters in length. It is also called as gut. Now, what is included in here is mouth, buccal cavity, also called as oral cavity, pharynx, esophagus. Now, the spelling of the esophagus in most of the textbooks, it comes without O. Even that is fine. Clear? So, mouth, buccal cavity, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine and large intestine. Clear? So, all these 7 organs alone comes up to 6 meters in length in any human being. Okay, now here I have mentioned the esophagus is 30 centimeters. Yes, the food pipe in any bodies is 30 centimeters in length, and small intestine is the longest in the whole alimentary canal because it is up to 1.5 to 2 meters in length, and it is completely coiled. Now, each of this organ has a very specific action on the food that is coming up through it, which we will discuss in detail in the coming few minutes. The digestive glands are the 4 main glands mentioned here: salivary glands, which is present in your buccal cavity, gastric glands in your stomach, liver and gallbladder around the stomach, and pancreas also around the stomach. These 4 glands play a major role in indirectly helping the organs of the alimentary canal to digest and get the nutrition. Yes, we'll move on to the explanation now. Now here you see a representation, a diagrammatic representation of human digestive system. Let's look up the organs first and then we will discuss. If you see this upper part of the human body, here this is the mouth. Our mouth is guarded by 2 lips, okay? The opening is what we call as the mouth. The food enters through the mouth, and once it enters, there is a cavity, the space inside your mouth where it is guarded by the teeth and floored by the tongue. We call that as oral cavity or buccal cavity. Now the teeth, we all know that for human beings it's 32 in number, and we have some 4 types of teeth. You would have learned in your lower classes: incisors, canines, molars and premolars. So these 4 types of teeth help us to chew the different kinds of food we eat. When I say chewing, it includes cutting, tearing, grinding or mashing. All these 4 types of functions are done by the teeth to break the larger food particles into smaller food particles. Clear? But are we only chewing in our mouth? We all think we are only chewing in our mouth. But what exactly also happens is the tongue, which is present at the bottom, mixes the chewing food along with the saliva which is produced in our mouth. So the tongue helps in mixing the so-called chewing food with the saliva and forms a substance called bolus. Once the food has entered your mouth and you have bitten it, it is no more called as a food, it is called as bolus. And that bolus is because of mastication. Mastication is a process where in the buccal cavity, the food that has entered the mouth is getting mixed with the saliva and getting chewed simultaneously. That process is called mastication. Now, that mastication happens in this oral cavity. Now, I have been speaking about salivary glands present in your buccal cavity. Now, we have three pairs of salivary glands, two under the tongue and one almost close to the ear. See, one close to the ear is called parotid and two under the tongue are submandibular and sublingual. You need not remember these terms, but knowing is not harmful. Clear? So, submandibular and sublingual parotid. All three are the types of salivary glands. Now, the bolus is formed. Clear? It has to go to the stomach for further digestion. Now, before we relate it with the concept, you need to understand that we have only we have only one opening in the throat which leads to two pipes. One is a food pipe, another one is a windpipe. Okay, these both are present together like this. Now, over these two, there is a common shield called epiglottis. Now, over these two, there is a common shield called epiglottis. This is the windpipe, this is the food pipe. Clear? Now, when the air is entering, when we are breathing, the shield opens only the windpipe. And when we are eating, the shield opens only the food pipe. So, epiglottis is one flap-like structure which guards the opening of these two pipes. Clear? It guards the opening. When it is opening into the food pipe, that opening is what we call as pharynx. It's marked on the top. The opening into the food pipe is called pharynx. Here there is another pipe which you are seeing incomplete. That is the opening, that is the pipe for the breathing, which we will see in the next class. Okay, so here is the food pipe and here is this is the windpipe and here is your food pipe. This opening we call it as pharynx. Now the food moves through the pharynx into the food pipe called esophagus. Here the esophagus, the food pipe, 30 centimeter long esophagus is there. It moves through the opening called pharynx and enters the esophagus. Remember students, the digestion has already started in the mouth. The digestion has already started in the buccal cavity where we have chewed the food and we have masticated the food. Now it is going to the stomach for further digestion through an opening called pharynx into the food pipe. Clear? Now, when the bolus is entering the food pipe, when the bolus is passing through the food pipe, there is no digestion happening. In the entire digestive system, if they ask you whether there is digestion happening in the esophagus, your answer must be no, because food pipe has no enzymes in it or has no capacity to digest the food. Its work is only to push down the food. Clear? How does it pushes? Through peristaltic movement. In that case, all the alimentary canal, all the organs in the alimentary canal are performing peristaltic movement all the time to push down the food further. Now, what is peristaltic movement? It is the repeated contraction and relaxation of the muscles present in the alimentary canal. Now, the muscle inside this esophagus is capable of contraction and relaxation. When it contracts and relaxes repeatedly, it pushes down the food further down. Clear? Now, the bolus is passing through this food pipe and entering the stomach. Now, stomach, everybody says it is in the shape of a letter J. It is not accurately like that, but for a normal understanding that will do. Now, the stomach is a very highly muscular organ. It is not just one organ with a few layers of tissues. No, it is highly muscular. It has a very thick muscular strength in it, inside it as well as outside it. Clear? Now the piece of figures opens into the stomach like this. Now once the bolus has reached the stomach, it has to undergo digestion. If it has to perform digestion, the medium or the temperature or the condition of the stomach must be acidic. For that, the stomach has some cells which produce HCl in them. HCl is an acid. We normally produce acid in our body, but it is not as concentrated as what we see artificially in our chemistry labs. Clear? So our stomach produces HCl to make the medium of the stomach suitable for the bolus to come and get digested. Clear? But you might have a question. When we are producing acid on our own in the stomach, how is our stomach cells not getting burnt? Our stomach has a special protective lining called mucosa lining. Stomach has a special lining called mucosa lining which protects the stomach from the acid effects of the HCl and enables that only the bolus is getting encountered with the HCl. Is that clear? Now here in the stomach, partial digestion takes place. Not complete digestion, partial digestion takes place. From the mouth, bolus has reached the stomach. It has been partially digested and it is no more called bolus. It is called chyme. chyme. It is called as chyme. Now the chyme enters into the small intestine. Listen, look properly students. The small intestine is starting here. The stomach opens to the small intestine which is highly coiled, and this is what we say it is 6 meters, 1.5 to 2 meters in length, and it is very coiled. It is where exactly the complete digestion takes place. Why? Because the liver and the pancreas are releasing the enzymes into the small intestine altogether. If you look here clearly, this is the liver, the largest gland in the body. It produces bile juice. Bile juice is some greenish yellowish juice. Now that juice is stored in this globule-like structure called gallbladder, which enters into the small intestine through this pipe called bile duct. Now what does it do? When the chyme is entering the small intestine, it makes the bile juice, makes the chyme that is entering the small intestine alkaline, and whatever fat substances are present, it breaks the fat substances into easily digestible fat substances. Now that is the work of liver and the bile juice. Now here a light green structure is given which is not seen clearly here, that's fine, because it is only present behind the stomach and it is in leaf shape. That is what we call it as pancreas, which also sends some enzymes to the small intestine. Now I am not mentioning any enzymes here clearly because in the coming slides you have detailed information about it. Okay, so from the pancreas, whichever enzymes are releasing into the small intestine will perform the complete digestion of the chyme and will get the end products of the digestion. Now, in the small intestine, the digestion gets over and the nutrients also are absorbed into the blood. How? We'll see further. Okay, here in small intestine, the digestion is completed and the nutrition is also getting absorbed into the blood. After that, the unwanted food waste, which is still there without getting digested, will be transferred to the large intestine. Here you see small organ called appendix that is being found to have certain microorganisms which helps in digestion easily. Okay, that doesn't have much information in your book, so don't be worried about that. Here from the small intestine, the food enters the large intestine. This part is called cecum, this is called colon, this is called rectum, and the anus. Clear? So the undigested food passes through all this only because there is a chance of the presence of certain minerals, and water in it which the body can take back. Our body has a complex system which has no means of wasting anything. Even from the undigested food, if our body is capable of taking any amount of water or minerals, it will absorb that also. So, in the large intestine, that is what takes place, the absorption of water and minerals. And the anus is the opening through which the solid waste is removed. Is that clear? Let's just have a small look. Here, the digestion starts. The food is conducted through the esophagus. Stomach is the place where the partial digestion takes place, and complete digestion is in the small intestine. Absorption is also in the small intestine. Is that clear? Yes, we'll move on to the next slide. Now here I have mentioned in detail about the terms which we have been talking. Starting with mastication. It is the mixing of saliva with the food substance while chewing. That process is called mastication. And what's the product we are getting here? Bolus. So the second one is peristaltic movement. It is repeated contraction and relaxation of the gut muscles to push down the food. Let's move to the next topic, that is role of enzymes, acids and other secretions. See, our digestive system releases some enzymes, releases some acids and some other secretions I mentioned, that includes juices and all that. Clear? Starting, see, I have written in an order the way the diagram is given. The first gland is in the saliva, in the buccal cavity. Ptyalin is one enzyme secreted by the salivary glands present in the buccal cavity. So the first gland that helps in the digestion is ptyalin. It is also called as salivary amylase. You will have the term in your book. Clear? What is its work? It breaks down the carbohydrate substances in the food into simpler molecules. What are the carbohydrates we usually eat? All the rice, idli, dosa, what's that? Breads and all that. They are rich in carbohydrates. All these kinds of food get their carbohydrates broken into smaller substances with the help of ptyalin in our buccal cavity. Now, gastric glands are the glands present in the stomach. You have three types of enzymes there, not enzymes actually, acids and enzymes mixed. That is HCl. What does it do? It makes the stomach medium acidic to activate pepsin. Also, HCl is an acid. It is capable of killing some microbes and germs that is entering our food. Clear? Entering our stomach through the food. It does that. It kills the germs and microorganisms. Second one is, unless the medium of the stomach is acidic, the enzyme called pepsin cannot react on the protein substances to break them. So if the pepsin has to be activated, the HCl must be present in the stomach. Clear? And what is the work of pepsin? We told HCl is to activate pepsin. What is the work of pepsin? Its work is to break proteins into peptones. Proteins are complex structure. Peptones are simpler structure. It further gets broken down as it moves towards the other parts of the alimentary canal. Clear? And renin or chymosin. Now, renin or chymosin has no much significance in most of the human beings, but since it is nutrition in animals, we'll just have a look on it. Renin or chymosin, its work is to coagulate the milk proteins and then break them. Clear? And mucus cells, they secrete the mucus lining of the stomach. If there is no mucus lining, HCl keeps on gets produced in our body and we'll have stomach ulcers coming up there. Clear? Now you hear people with stomach ulcers and acidity and all. It is because when there is increased secretion of HCl in the stomach than the required amount of HCl secretion, there will be burning sensation in the stomach. Clear? Now the next one is liver and gallbladder. Liver is the largest gland in the body. It is three-lobed. You have three lobes of liver. Clear? Now liver produces bile juice that is stored in the gallbladder, sent only to the small intestine through the bile duct. Now what's work? It's to make the food alkaline for other enzymes to perform digestion easily. So when the chyme is entering the small intestine, the juices from the liver will make the chyme alkaline so that the other enzymes can easily react on them. The next step is emulsification. What is emulsification? It is where the bile juice breaks the fatty substances into simpler fat bodies. Emulsification is an important step, but if we keep on eating lots and lots of fatty substances, the emulsification process cannot happen normally and that becomes an issue. Clear? Now the next gland is pancreas. Pancreas is that leaf-like structure which we have been discussing about. What are the enzymes? It mainly includes trypsin, which is protein digesting enzyme, along with amylase, same like the thiolin, and lipase, same. Lipase means the enzyme which digests the fat particles. The last one is intestinal glands. Very few glands are present in the small intestine which has these three type of enzymes. Amylolytic means the enzymes which break down carbohydrates. Proteolytic means the enzymes which break down proteins. Lipolytic enzymes break down lipids. Lipids are the other term for fat substances present in the food. They act on the semi-digested substance called chyme and complete the digestion. So with the secretions from the intestinal glands in the small intestine, the digestion is completed. Clear? I think I have covered everything. Now here, mentioned here again, the digestion initiates in the buccal cavity and food becomes the bolus. Then the digestion takes place partially in the stomach and the bolus is becoming chyme. And when it reaches the small intestine, it is completely getting digested where the undigested food is sent to the large intestine and the nutrition is absorbed into the blood. After the completion of digestion, we are speaking nutrients are getting absorbed into the blood. What nutrients are getting absorbed? Glucose, amino acids, fatty acids and glycerol. Now carbohydrates when the carbohydrates are completely getting digested, the only nutrient you get is glucose. When you eat proteins, after it completely gets digested, the only nutrient you get is amino acids. Fatty substance you eat, after when it's completely digested, the nutrients that is we are obtaining from the fats are fatty acids and glycerol. Clear? If they ask you what are the end products of digestion, glucose from carbohydrates, amino acids from proteins, fatty acids and glycerol from the fat substances is going to be your answer. Now, digestion is done. Absorption. Where does the absorption takes place in the alimentary canal? Small intestine. Where the complete digestion is happening, there only the absorption is also happening. But how? Can we go to the next slide? Yes. See, this is a small section of the small intestine and they have cut it transversely to show you how it looks internally. Here the small finger-like projections which you see are called villi. In singular terms it is villus. This is the transverse section of the villi again. Just for you to understand how villi looks, I am showing you the picture. They are very minute, tiny and thousands of them, millions of them are there in our small intestine. Their work is to increase the space in the small intestine so that when the nutrients are brought up after the digestion, when the nutrients are obtained after the digestion, it absorbs as much as it wants and sends it to the blood. If you see here, there are blood vessels. Red and blue are the blood vessels. This is the wall of the villi. And here and all is the intestine. In the intestine, whatever nutrients are obtained are easily absorbed by the cell wall of the villi into the blood vessel, so that the blood vessel transports the nutrients to the all other parts of the body. Okay, from the intestine to the cell wall of the villi and from the cell wall of the villi to the blood vessel of the Will is present here, and then to the all parts of the body. So villi are the organs present inside the small intestine that absorbs the nutrients. Is that clear? Previous slide, please. Previous slide. Here. So takes place in the small intestine mainly with the help of villi, and the excess water and minerals from the undigested food is absorbed in the large intestine. Is that clear? So ingestion only in the buccal cavity, digestion in the buccal cavity, stomach and the small intestine, absorption small intestine and large intestine. Assimilation takes place in the whole body. Digestion is performed only by the large intestine. Next slide. Next. Here. Now not forget. Now after you complete the human digestive system, in your book you have this separate topic called dental caries or dental plaque. It simply means tooth decay or a dental decation. How that happens? This is the structure of tooth. This white part what we see externally is called enamel. Inside that you have another mineral called dentine. And inside that we have huge number of blood vessels connected to it. Now enamel and dentine are the mineral substances that is hardening the shape of our teeth and protecting it. In fact, enamel is the most strongest in our body. Now what is dental caries is, we eat lots of food and internally our body has some microorganisms present naturally to help in digestion or to help in killing the germs. Okay, just like how I mentioned appendix has some microorganisms, even in our mouth we have some microorganisms, or we can also have some microorganisms entering through the food. And in these, some bacteria which is present are known only to digest the sugars or the carbohydrates, especially the sugars. Now these bacteria, when we chew the food, they settle around our teeth along with the food particle, and when they digest that food particle, they release some acids which keeps accumulating over our teeth. When I say accumulating over our teeth, that is the accumulating over the enamel. And that is one of the reasons why if we don't brush our teeth properly, we get yellowish covering around it. That yellowishness is because of the acid produced by the microorganisms which is digesting the carbohydrates, the sugars. Now why that yellowish is coming is, the salivary enzyme which is producing in our body must be able to reach the teeth also to alkalize that acid and reduce that yellowishness. But when there is too much of accumulation of these acids produced by the bacteria, the salivary enzymes will not be able to reach our teeth and will not be able to break down that acid layers. And that is how the decaying of the teeth happens, where the enamel of our teeth softens and we have our teeth breaking and root canal treatment and all we have to undergo. That's what I have mentioned in the points. Softening of enamel and dentine is called dental caries. How it happens? By accumulation of sugar digesting bacteria forms a plaque over the teeth. Plaque means too many layers of something. These bacteria produce some acids on digesting the sugar. Now these acids weaken the mineral. To neutralize that weakening, the saliva has to enter the teeth or must be able to reach the layers of the teeth. But if there is plaque, the saliva cannot reach the teeth and it cannot neutralize it. That is why it is advised to brush your teeth twice or thrice a day to avoid such dental caries. Is that clear, students? Next slide, please. Okay, this is a very common question which you have been getting in your lower classes. But here, see, in your lower classes, you would have a question like this. Like, why do herbivores are able to digest cellulose, not human beings? But in your 10th standard, the question will be like this. Why do herbivores, that is plant-eating animals, have longer alimentary canal than the carnivores, that is flesh-eating? Now we come under omnivores. Okay, let's take example of us itself. How do we eat plants? Like herbivores, we also eat plants, like in form of spinach and coriander and all that. Can we chew the spinach without boiling them? No. Why? If we chew the spinach without boiling them, it will be very hard and we cannot digest it. That is why we boil and break it a little and then we chew it. Why is it so hard? Because of a complex carbohydrate called starch. Now the starch, if you see its chemical formation, it is made up of cellulose, which is the most complex carbohydrate that cannot be digested by human beings and other animals which are not herbivores. But herbivores are only plant eating animals. So they are gifted with strong teeth to break down the raw plants and leaves. Not only that, these herbivores have some bacteria inside them which is specially feeding only on the cellulose, and they have some natural enzymes producing in their body to digest the cellulose. Now if you see cow, it always keeps on moving its mouth. Why? After eating the first set of grass, it keeps quiet for some time, and then after 2 hours or so, again it brings back that stored food from its stomach, brings it back to the mouth, and then it chews. It stores it in one part of the intestine, because in that part of the intestine it has this cellulase enzyme and the cellulose digesting bacteria, which acts on that partially chewed food and makes it even more easier for the cow to chew it completely the second time, and then it goes for the complete digestion. So since it has to undergo so many processes, the alimentary canal of the herbivores are alone little longer than the carnivores and omnivores. Is that clear? Yes. Now, this nutrition amoeba and nutrition in human beings are what kind of nutrition, students? Heterotrophic nutrition, because amoeba is depending on the outside substance for nutrition. Human beings are depending on other organisms for nutrition. And the plant nutrition which we learned is autotrophic. What is the difference between these two? How do you differentiate the plant nutrition from animal nutrition? So I have just given you a few points. You can add it up more with your examples and other points if you come across. Clear? So autotrophs, they use inorganic substances. What are the inorganic substances the plant is using? Water, carbon dioxide, sunlight. So they are using inorganic substances. Are we using inorganic substances? No. We use organic substances. We are eating carbohydrates. We are not eating carbon dioxide. Is that clear? So, autotrophs use inorganic substances. Heterotrophs use organic substances. The second one, it can prepare its own food. We have to depend on some other organisms to prepare the food. In fact, it prepares in its body. We prepare outside and then we put it inside our body. Third one, photosynthetic pigment is present. Plants have photosynthetic pigment to trap the sunlight and prepare the food in its own body. Do heterotroph animals require pigments? No, because they depend on other organisms. They don't depend on the sunlight, they depend on other organisms. So in such case, they don't require any pigments. Now the fourth one, is there any digestion process happening? No. Whereas in heterotrophs, there is digestion happening. Digestion is the only step which completely brings up the nutrients. The last one, there the light energy is converted into chemical energy. We are not getting any energy from outside into our body. We are just eating raw materials and then we are converting it. So, there is no conversion of energy and utilization. This is the consolidation of the nutrition topic. I think I have made it clear. If you have any doubts, please clarify it. Thank you.